It's hard to be a woman.
Johnny Cash destroyed 508 acres of forest and nearly wiped out 49 of 53 endangered condors. Jerry Lee Lewis married his 13-year-old cousin. Johnny Paycheck shot a man in a bar. And Spade Cooley beat his wife to death. Who were the worst? Which one shocked the world most? And why? Number 20, Toby Keith.
I never ask you where you're going. I've never asked you where you've been.
Toby Keith's rise from Oklahoma bars to $365 million net worth came with a heavy price: ego. People who worked under him didn't describe a leader. They described a dictator. Tour managers said he berate sound techs for missing his lighting cue by half a second. Crew members joked that getting yelled at by Toby was part of the job. His feuds became industry folklore. Natalie Maines, Chris Christopherson, even radio hosts who dared to criticize him. In 2003, Keith famously blew up backstage when a journalist questioned his patriotism, screaming so loudly the entire press tent went silent. Despite it all, his songs dominated radio. Success only made his temper sharper. He treated fame like a weapon, not a gift. And if Toby ruled with rage, the next star took rage and made it personal. Every tantrum was a performance. Number 19, Dwight Yoakam.
I, in high school, had a rockabilly band. In my junior year of high school, I hosted a variety show with a...
Dwight Yoakam wasn't violent, but he was brutal in another way. Through pressure. He expected perfectionism from everyone but himself. Former bandmates told Rolling Stone that he'd rehearse for 14 hours straight, then fire a guitarist for not catching the heartbeat. During his Guitars, Cadillac, etc. tour, 2 roadies quit after he screamed at them for setting his mic 3 inches too low. Even on film sets, directors described him as intense to the point of exhausting. During Sling Blade 1996, he'd rewrite dialogue on the spot, claiming he could hear it better. Crew members called him brilliant, but unbearable. He demanded loyalty, and when he didn't get it, he'd cut ties instantly. To Dwight, control meant survival. But where he used control to protect his image, the next outlaw used chaos to destroy his, faster than anyone thought possible. Number 18, Steve Earle. Steve Earle's genius was undeniable, but so was his self-destruction. By 1994, he'd been arrested multiple times for heroin and cocaine possession. In one infamous show in Austin, he walked on stage barefoot, slurred his lyrics, and passed out mid-song. That same year, he smashed a microphone through a stage monitor after claiming the sound was judging me. Friends say Earle lived on black coffee, whiskey, and rage. His weight plummeted, his record label dropped him, and his marriage collapsed. When police finally busted him, he said, "I wasn't arrested, I was rescued." After rehab, he clawed back with Train A-Comin' in 1995. But the scars stayed. He said later, "I was looking for the bottom. Turns out, it was deeper than I thought." And while Steve's destruction came from within, the next singer turned his violence outward, especially against the people closest to him. Number 17, Ray Price.
And make believe you love me one more time.
Ray Price looked every bit the Southern gentleman. Perfect hair, crisp suits, slow Texas drawl. But behind that charm, his temper ruled. In 1958, police records show he was arrested for domestic assault after a drunken fight with his wife. He denied it publicly, but the charges were real. Bandmates described him as a man who could go from calm to chaos in seconds. If a musician missed a note, Ray would stop the show to humiliate them on stage. In private, jealousy drove him mad. He once smashed a bottle after seeing his wife talk to another man at a dance. Ironically, he sang songs about heartbreak and forgiveness while living the opposite. By the 70s, most musicians refused to tour with him. And while Ray's violence hid under politeness, the next man didn't bother hiding it at all. He wore his demons like a badge. Number 16, Lefty Frizzell.
She's gone, 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 gone.
Lefty Frizzell could sing heartbreak like nobody else, but he caused plenty of it too. During the 1950s, his drinking was constant. Promoters said he'd show up slurring, sometimes hours late, then pick fights with bandmates before hitting the stage. One night in Dallas, he forgot half his lyrics, hurled the mic stand into the crowd, and stormed off. RCA nearly dropped him 3 times for conduct unbecoming. Even Hank Williams told a friend, Lefty drinks like he's racing the devil. He cheated on his wife, alienated friends, and lost fortune after fortune. By 1975, he was broke, sick, and alone. Dead at 47 from a stroke that doctors blamed on years of heavy drinking. Lefty burned bright and fast, but he left behind a trail of people he'd hurt. And yet, even he never tried to control someone's soul the way the next man did. Number 15, Porter Wagoner. Porter Wagoner's smile lit up TV screens, but Dolly Parton lived through the shadows behind it. She joined his show in 1967. Within 2 years, he controlled every part of her life.
I believe we have a firm foundation.
What she wore, who she talked to, what she sang. When she told him she wanted to go solo, he exploded. She wrote, "I will always love you" to say goodbye. He didn't take it as a love song, it was betrayal. In 1979, he sued her for $3 million, claiming she owed him for her success. Dolly quietly settled out of court just to move on. Porter later admitted, "I couldn't stand losing her. That was the truth. His ego couldn't stand her independence." But where Porter tried to control one woman, the next man tried to control everyone around him, and did it with an iron smile. Number 14, Buck Owens. Buck Owens seems like a good guy. You know, that pleasant voice on Hee Haw, wearing that signature flat-topped hair, smiling at the camera. But behind that image, not so friendly. He ran things like a boss from hell. Guys who worked for him later said he would dock people's pay for being even a minute late. He'd scold musicians for missing a beat as though it ruined everything. He owned his own radio stations, record labels, even had control over publishing rights.
30 years ago, a new sound emerged in country music. It was coming out of Bakersfield, California, with people like Buck Owens.
Which meant if someone slipped, he could cut them off. Some staff says he'd humiliate people publicly over small mistakes. He wasn't just strict, he was controlling. And while this public image stayed squeaky clean, those who really knew him say he could be cold. And as controlling as Buck was, the next guy had dark energy, trouble, and real danger in his vocal cords. Number 13, Hank Williams Jr. Hank Jr. didn't grow into fame quietly. He stomped into it with a chip on his shoulder. He inherited his famous name, which gave him big expectations, and he fought them loudly. He had fistfights over critics over what he considered disrespectful questions. Once, he punched a reporter who called him washed up. He nearly died in 1975 during that famous mountain fall. Doctors broke his skull in 7 places. His face had 47 fractures. After that, instead of slowing down, he used the pain and anger and the survival to fuel more political tirades. He said things on live TV that made some networks drop him. One time, ESPN canceled his appearances because of controversial comments about politics. He became as famous for his outburst as his songs. Even so, the next man could make him look measured when cocaine, rage, and outlaw status collided. Number 12, Merle Haggard. Merle Haggard wrote songs about the working man, pain, and redemption. But when he drank, he could become mean in a big way. Bandmates tell stories of nights when Merle stopped shows, pointed fingers, and told people they weren't worthy. or they were phoning it in. Once, he fired his entire band during sound check in Tulsa because he said they looked bored. That meant no show that night. His early life included a stint in San Quentin. He understood prison, regret, and damage. But even after success, he sometimes treated musicians like things he could discard. Critics say he paid less attention to people than to performance. Others say he'd be generous in song royalties but strict about discipline. He was complicated, warm in many songs, cold in many tours. Still, the next outlaw was louder, riskier, and in full-blown chaos on and off stage. Number 11, Waylon Jennings.
Woke up this morning, it was drizzling rain. Round the curve come a passenger train.
Waylon didn't mellow in the studio. He destroyed it. He spent hundreds of dollars a day, in the 1970s value of the time, on cocaine, which blurred all boundaries between sound checks, partying, and production. He once smashed a mixing console because the bass line wasn't hitting me right. The control board cracked, glass flew, and producers backed away. He had a run-in where cocaine was mailed to his address disguised as electronics parts. He also performed while high. Sometimes tour sponsors wouldn't want him around, yet fans packed venues because they knew what was coming: recklessness, rebellion, and raw honesty. He told people backstage, "I don't want to be fixed. I want to feel alive." That line made him legendary. It also made him dangerous. Even after that, the next man had control problems too, but with a darker personal spiral pulling him down. Number 10, Glenn Campbell.
I am a lineman for the county.
Glenn Campbell looks like the kind of clean-cut singing cowboy you'd trust. He had TV shows, smooth hits, and seemed respectable. But in the late 70s and early 80s, things changed. He got addicted to cocaine, and after that, sources say he became aggressive physically and emotionally. In interviews, he admitted to being cruel to his partners. Reports from Tanya Tucker's camp said arguments in hotels got loud, sometimes destructive. He would break furniture. He once said in a confessional tone that he damaged relationships because I was messed up. His image cracked. People who once adored him started saying, "We didn't know that side of him." He cleaned up eventually, but the damage wasn't forgettable. And while Glenn's spiral was tragic, it was only part of the darker world that the next few stories fully exposed. Number 9, Tammy Wynette.
First Lady of Country Music, your 1991 legend, Miss Tammy Wynette.
Tammy Wynette sells heartbreak, but sometimes she made heartbreak happen. She was married 5 times, and lovers often described her as both passionate and cold. During her split with George Jones, she claimed she'd been kidnapped, wearing a black eye, which turned into a massive media story. But police never verified key parts of her story. Many insiders believe she fabricated elements to protect her image or to gain sympathy. Her hit, Stand By Your Man, earned Grammy love, but critics said it reinforced women's submission. She knew controversy sold records. At her peak, she toured relentlessly, over 200 shows a year during the 1970s, even when her health suffered. One ex-partner told friends she knew how to hurt you and how to make the world think you hurt her instead. And while Tammy could break a heart with a lyric, the next man could almost break a person permanently. Number 8, David Allan Coe. David Allan Coe made villainy part of his brand. He claimed he spent 8 years in prison fighting off inmate rapists, but court records show he did only 1 year. He often exaggerated his past to match the image. In 1982, he released bootleg albums with slurs, cruel sexual content, and violent racism. He defended them in interviews. "I write what people won't say." Many radio stations refused to play his music. Major labels dropped him over it. Yet, Some fans saw honesty in his brutal lyrics. His concerts still pulled in a cult following, mostly men who feared no consequences. He leaned into the evil image, sometimes dressing in skeleton or devil motifs on stage. And even as Coe grew colder, the next man seemed colder still, not just in words, but in deeds. Number 7, Billy Joe Shaver.
Down leaving son, it done did everything that needs done.
Billy Joe Shaver had outlaw music written in his bones, and outlaw action wrote his story. In April 2007, during a dispute in a bar in Lorena, Texas, Shaver shot Billy Bryant Coker in the face with a .22 caliber pistol. Coker survived, barely. At trial, Shaver stood in court and said he needed killing. The jury eventually found him not guilty after he claimed self-defense. Shaver told press he didn't want fame from the shooting, but one of his songs afterward referenced the incident. He refused to say sorry. In interviews, he sounded proud, not regretful. Fans saw the defiance, others saw menace. He stayed bitter about his enemies until the end. And while Billy Joe's violence was shocking, the next man's bitterness spilled from his rifle into jail time. Number 6, Johnny Paycheck. Johnny Paycheck's "Take This Job and Shove It" made him a working-class hero.
Take this job and shove it. I ain't working here no more.
But the bullet he fired in 1985 told a darker truth. The argument started over a deer head on a barroom wall in Hillsboro, Ohio. Paycheck pulled a pistol and shot a man in the head. The victim survived. He was sentenced to 7 years, but served nearly 2 years before getting paroled. In prison interviews, Paycheck joked about the shooting, saying he learned plenty in the big house. His humor didn't win anyone over. Some said he treated the whole thing like a badge. After release, he went back to singing, but bars and promoters quietly asked if he'd mellowed. He never seemed ashamed, just hardened. And while Paycheck's violence was serious, the next man poured Moscow mules of chaos into entire relationships and reputations. Number 5, George Jones.
He still loved her through it all.
George "No-Show" Jones had the voice of heartbreak and the reputation for unhinged brutality. He missed more than half his shows in some years. He once ran off with a loaded gun after an argument. Stories say he fired at crows outside his home during a blackout, laughing that they needed thinning. He drank 2 bottles of vodka a day during peak years. Bandmates said sometimes he could sing 2 flawless songs while still slurring, only to collapse minutes later. His ex, Tammy Wynette, and others said they feared him. He lived nearly 70 years, but always seemed trapped by something inside. And if George dominated the chaos of living, the next man destroyed everything around him in collapse. Number 4, Jerry Lee Lewis. Jerry Lee Lewis was terrifying and non-stoppable. At age 22, he married his 13-year-old cousin, Myra Gale Brown.
When were you married? Well, we leave our personal questions out of this, sir.
News that destroyed his 1958 UK tour suddenly. The world called him scandalous. He didn't back down. He drank like a man possessed. Once, after an argument, he fired into a floor and the bullet hit his bass's chest. The man survived, but told friends he never knew whether Jerry was going to kill me or hug me. He later made a drunken trip to Elvis Presley's mansion, demanding a private chat, gun in hand, insisting Elvis owed him a meeting. Elvis had police escort him away. Jerry was both musical genius and personal terror. And while Jerry Lee's storms were public, the next man's final act was deadly quiet and permanent. Number 3, Hank Williams Sr.
Say, hey, good looking, what you got cooking?
Hank Williams Sr. gave America "I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry," but he was behind many real heartbreaks. He often missed shows. By the time he was 27, he was addicted to morphine and whiskey. His old rodeo injury left him in chronic pain, which he numbed with drugs. The Grand Ole Opry twice suspended him for intoxication. He was married to Audrey Williams. Their relationship was volatile, abusive. He vanished on long binges, then came back to perform with slurred speech. On New Year's Day, 1953, age 29, he died in the back seat of a car, morphine and alcohol in his system. He left behind a music revolution and broken relationships. Even his best songs seemed stained with the cries of a lost, damaged man. And while Hank Sr. died young, burning out, the final man on our list made his darkest moment live on, and it changed everything. At number 2, Jimmy Allen.
Patience, yeah, that's what it's gonna take when you're putting back the pieces that's been breaking.
Jimmy Allen looked like the friendly blue-collar voice of modern country. Smooth delivery, heartfelt lyrics, wide appeal. But beneath that charm, serious accusations exposed a darker side. A woman known only as Jane Doe filed a civil lawsuit in Tennessee, claiming Allen sexually assaulted her in a Las Vegas hotel room in 2022 and secretly recorded the encounter without her consent. He denied the allegations, but in 2025, a court entered default judgment against him for failing to meet procedural deadlines. He was ordered to pay nearly $6,000 in attorney's fees.
Jimmy Allen is being accused of sexual abuse by his former manager. She filed a federal lawsuit today alleging he raped and harassed her while she worked as his day-to-day manager.
Allen says he is innocent. Critics say he treated fame like leverage, not responsibility. And at number 1, Spade Cooley. Spade Cooley was a star. He fronted his own TV show, sold hit records, and was crowned the king of Western swing. Yet, on April 3, 1961, everything changed. After accusing his wife, Ella May, of infidelity, Cooley brutally beat her to death, then stood over her body, telling officers, "She is dead, just like I done her." His 14-year-old daughter witnessed the crime. Authorities found 26 blunt force wounds on her skull. Cooley claimed extreme jealousy, but experts said the violence was deliberate and repeated. He was convicted, got a life sentence in California's Vacaville prison. In 1969, granted temporary furlough for a performance. He stepped off stage and died of a heart attack. He never saw freedom again. Country historians often call this case its darkest. You've just touched the dark underbelly of country music's golden age. Want more stories they tried to erase? Subscribe now, and I'll walk you through the scandals, secrets, and songs nobody wants to remember.